Jeff Catlin. I'm the global head of engineering here at Loop One. I've been with Loop One for almost going on 9 years now. I've had a history that's gone from working in data centers as NOC tech, managing the NOC technician team, and now I'm in charge of the different regional departments that we have on delivering our services around the SolarWinds solutions and many others that tie into it. And Katrina?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I've been with KnowBe4 for almost 6 years now. I've been supporting business development with all of our partner teams, pretty much along the West Coast for the most part, but essentially helping to better understand social engineering in the cyber threat landscape and helping educate clients on their behalf as well.
And for anyone who's not familiar, Loop One, our primary function as a company is we do ITOM solution consultations. Major focus that we have is around the SolarWinds product suite. And we work with Fortune 500 companies. We have distinct training classes that we have out there. Right now, we have over 100 global employees working out of different regions of EMEA, where we have UK office, a German office, and an Ireland office. We also have a group that works out of APJ out of Sri Lanka, and then we have several engineers that work out of North America through different states throughout the country. Our team is made up of several engineers that all hold multiple SCPs in many cases. That I believe the average number of SCPs per engineer is somewhere around 4 at this point in time. We've done thousands of deployments in I believe it's 13 years that Loop One has been in existence. And one of the things that we do is we have the Loop One monitoring maturity model, which helps us to do consultation around clients around several different solutions, but again, with the primary focus being on SolarWinds. And we also consider things that fall outside of SolarWinds. And so we've been partnering with several other companies such as Runecast and Portnox and NetFoundry. So that way we can find those pieces that SolarWinds isn't able to actually solve with just the monitoring pieces of it, but adding in some form of security on top of it or features that it's missing. KnowBe4 is one of the partners that we have decided that we've started working with, and we're actually even a client of them. So we use the training that we're going to be discussing in this, and we have the phishing reporting and several other options that there are that they offer. And with that, I wanted to point out that with all the monitoring that we do, all of our consultation around, the one thing that you really can't monitor is how your people actually respond to things on a regular basis. And we partnered with KnowBe4 because this actually gives you somewhat of an opportunity to kind of monitor what your expectation that they might be able to do. And I'm going to pass it off to Katrina so that she can let you know kind of how KnowBe4 provides that solution for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you guys having me today. Let me go ahead and share my screen and make sure that you guys are able to see everything there.
We can indeed, Katrina.
Fabulous. All right, cool. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on KnowBe4, a little bit of foundation of, where we came from, security awareness training in general, and then I can dive into the console and show you a little bit about what that looks like from a high level. So we currently have more than 55,000 customers nationally. This is, I'm sorry, nationally and internationally. We do have a global footprint. We've got 11 offices all across the world, as you can see listed here, which also means that we support multiple languages. We currently have translations in over 34 languages in our training content and even pre-built phishing templates, which is awesome. We also do work with a variety of different industries. It really doesn't matter what industry an organization is in nowadays. Cyber criminals aren't privy. They're targeting everyone. They're going for organizations that, that are super small as well as super large. So our platform is completely scalable. So whether you've got 25 employees or 300,000, it is something that can be a good fit for you. Now, year over year, KnowBe4 has also been named a leader in the industry. Started with Gartner's Magic Quadrant report, has now graduated to the Forrester Wave report. But we do have this report accessible if it is something that you would like to dig into a little bit deeper to get a better understanding of why we're the leader year over year. What details compile that. We can definitely get that over for you. But really, people are going to be the critical layer within the fabric of any security program. As we know, people are crucial in day-to-day operations. So with that being said, we've actually coined a term here called building out your own human firewall. This is really going to be what we call the last line of defense. It's no longer a matter of if something gets through the layers of security that are in place. It's really a matter of when it does. And when it does, do those staff know how to handle that? As data shown, 91% of data breaches stem from spear phishing attacks, so really human error. Year over year, we see monumental increases in the percentage of data breaches, the value of, average cost of a data breach. Ransomware attacks growing larger and larger. It really has become a billion-dollar industry. And W-2 scams have become more and more common as well to harvest personal information. And as human error is undeniable and humans are going to be the weakest link in security, this graph here is going to depict how the threat action in breaches has changed over time. And you can see that phishing was ranked years ago as number 2, but it has consistently stayed at the top of the line. And year over year since back in 2020, it has maintained that number 1 status. And then one of the biggest attacks that we see and hear about constantly is CEO fraud. So this is really just a long-term game for cyber criminals with the largest payout. A lot of times what they do is just sit in the back end in your network. You don't know how long they've been there. It could have been days. It could have been weeks. It could be up to a year. You really don't know. But they're just compiling information to find the best way to social engineer the highest revenue from the company. So it could be wire transfer, it could be data breaches, but it really results in severe damages that can be, loss of money, people getting fired, lawsuits being filed for personal information. So the goal is to help educate the staff so that they know what to look out for, so something like this doesn't happen to you. Now, how do you protect the organization? Users are generally speaking not very savvy to a lot of things that are happening out there in the wild, and it can be very easy to trick folks, leaning on their human nature, to click on a link, to open an attachment. Employees genuinely are going to have a false sense of security because they're going to believe that, somebody needs help, right? So they also think that their antivirus or in organization is going to be sufficient enough to block things that may be malicious coming their way. But at least 7 to 10% tend to make it past the filters that you have in place today. And very often we do see that backups don't work, or it can create a lot of downtime and a lot of lost revenue when it takes days to restore those backups. So by having your human firewall in place, it's going to essentially limit any of those expected problems from happening, because your employees are going to know what to look out for. So how you manage the problem of social engineering, our recommendations are going to start with a baseline test. So establishing a starting point for your users' knowledge based on, what they know now. Then you'd want to move into a training program, doing a cybersecurity fundamentals type training, get everybody onboarded. And then we do recommend phishing the users at least on a monthly basis. And this is going to reinforce that knowledge so that way they can be conditioned to the things that are happening out there in the wild. We do offer a wide library of training content and phishing templates, so you can be dynamic in the things that you're targeting them with. For phishing, you can target them on specific topics that are most relevant to your industry or your organization. And everything in the platform is going to be trackable. So you're going to be able to pull information to see, who your riskiest users are, who's completed the most training, who's clicked on the most phishing emails, what type of phishing templates are your users most prone to click on. There's lots of wonderful reporting built in there as well. And it's very important to develop a mature program. By doing training or phishing independently of one another, that's not going to be enough. Really, our platform is an integrated platform, so the two communicate to one another, and there's a lot of automations that are built in there to make it easy for a failure to trigger a remedial training, or for you to track the types of behaviors with phishing tests and create a automated remedial training based on the type of failure, not just the content. This is going to grow the knowledge of your end users and generate a more effective firewall for you. And when we say train, we mean train everyone. So from the top down, everyone from the boardroom to the IT staff should be trained. And what's great about our comprehensive library is that you can be selective in the type of training that you're targeting folks with. We do have a C-suite for executives. We have more comprehensive stuff for the IT division. So you can definitely make sure that you're targeting users based on, where their knowledge is at and what their role is in the organization. It's definitely important for them to understand all the different mechanisms that the cyber criminals are using. And our training content is going to be on demand, interactive, engaging, for them to really get a thorough understanding of these topics. And as I'd mentioned, the baseline phishing test, you can't manage what you don't measure. So establishing that baseline is giving you a starting point to grow from, right? And when I get into the platform, you're going to be able to see here, all of the behaviors with phishing are tracked, so you can see exactly what those behaviors were for every test. And we do call this the phish prone percentage. So that's really the number of users that are prone to click on a phishing email. We do also have a risk officer that's built into the platform, which is pretty awesome. It's really going to help you to answer questions such as, what users are going to be the most vulnerable for phishing attacks? What groups haven't had training? What groups are most prone to click on phishing emails? What types of phishing emails are users clicking on? So all of the trackability in the platform gives you a lot of data to build from. So you can start off with a simplified and standard program and build things out to have a more robust program over time. And it is very important to continue to test the users regularly. We do make that recommendation of phishing users at least once a month, but you can run as many phishing and training campaigns simultaneously as you'd like. So if you did want to have multiple training campaigns active, if you want to phish users weekly, bi-weekly, quarterly, in addition to that monthly, you're absolutely able to do all of those things. It's really just reinforcing what's happening out there in the wild. You can change things up. As cyber criminals are going to continue to evolve and get smarter. They're going to try new tactics, and we're going to continue to add those templates into our platform. You can also build your own out, but you really want to change things up, make sure that the users are aware of all the different things that are happening out there. And all of our email templates are going to be ranked from 1 star to 5 stars too, so you can start lower, build up as they're getting smarter. And then we do actually have a full product suite. So although we are so well known for our security awareness training and simulated phishing platform, we've also expanded to offer Compliance Plus, which is a compliance library that supports risk, regulatory, and HR compliance. That is basically an extension in our security awareness training platform. So I can show you guys what that looks like. We also have PhishER. So as you are training your users to make those smarter security decisions, one of the things that you're doing is coaching them to report suspicious things in the environment, which is great because it gives you better visibility on what you're being targeted with as often as you are. But it can create a secondary problem, which is how do we manage that influx of reported suspicious emails, right? So that's where PhishER comes into place. You're actually able to manage the influx of emails in an efficient way. You can create rules, tags, and actions on those emails to automatically resolve them so you're not ever duplicating your efforts on those. You can actually, even if you do identify a threat, run a query of all the email addresses within your network and rip that threat away from the user's fingertips and quarantine it in the platform, which is pretty awesome as well. And then lastly, we also do have a GRC tool. So if you are managing multiple compliance frameworks, you're seeing things like HIPAA, PCI, SOC compliance, NIST, you've got PII, any of that stuff. If you don't have a tool that you're utilizing to help make that efficient, to be able to delegate the duties out, store all the evidence, it may be worth looking into because it's going to save you a lot of gray hairs to actually streamline that and store it into one tool as well. And then lastly, we are a company that focuses very heavily on industry proven results. So this right here is highlighting about 9.5 million users in the console. You can see that the average starting point for an organization is sitting just above 32% as the baseline, that phish prone percentage. After you get everybody onboarded and trained and you run that secondary baseline, you can expect to see around a 50% drop. But really, the goal is to provide you the tools to create a cultural and behavioral change in the organization so you can really drive that number as close to zero as possible and keep it there. So I will jump into the platform for you guys now and get to the fun stuff here. So dominantly what I'm going to be showing you guys today is focusing on the admin view. I'll show you what the end users see as well, but whoever's managing the console, this is what you'd be looking at. So firstly, when you log in, you get things like the customer-facing dashboard. It's going to give you an overview of the organization's risk score. This is dominantly compiled by the behaviors in the platform, but there are some other things that we do. We run a monthly email exposure check for our customers, basically scouring the World Wide Web for email addresses that are affiliated with your domain that are out there in the wild. If we can find them, so can the cyber criminals, right? We're also partnered with SpyCloud, so we can cross-check that against 12,000 data breaches to essentially see where your biggest risk is. We call that your surface attack area. So there are a couple other things that go into that risk history score for you. Scrolling down, you can see phishing security tests over the course of about 6 months and all of the actions affiliated with those tests, whether people are clicking, entering information on landing pages, replying to phishing emails, or doing the right thing and reporting them. And we do have a button that you can install called the Phish Alert button. Depending on what email client you have, it would populate a little bit differently, but it's going to populate as an extension of the toolbar. And there's even training content. There's like a 2-minute training video on the platform that you can send out to your users to let them know what that button is and why it's important to use. This is mapping the use of that button. You can see that it tracks simulated versus non-simulated. For non-simulated, that would then be reported for you and your team to review. For simulated emails, it actually has positive reinforcement built in. So there's going to be a little congratulations message that pops up that says, thanks for keeping our network secure. You passed a phishing test. So it becomes fun in a game for the end users. So you start to see an uptick in the number of emails that get reported as a result. First thing that you'd have to do is upload the users in the platform. We do have a couple different methods to do that. We do support Active Directory integration and single sign-on, so you can streamline onboarding. You can specify OUs, users, and groups when you onboard. You can create groups in the console, but you can be selective on the information that you're inputting into the platform. We do make the recommendation to create a clickers group. That way you can automate remedial training for people who are failing those phishing tests. And I will show you what end user behavior looks like if you get down to the nitty gritty here. So here's an example of one end user. You can see it specifies, phishing results, what the phish prone percentage is, how many emails were sent, how many failures there were, how many trainings they've completed, and each person is assigned their own risk score as well, which is compiled by the 5 risk factors to the right. But we can go specifically into phishing and see this user is clicking on things, replying to phishing emails, opening attachments, entering information on landing pages. I mean, everything that you don't want somebody to be doing, right? We also launched earlier this year the ability to embed QR codes in emails. So you can also track if somebody scans a QR code from one of those emails. Lastly, you do have visibility on the email that they clicked on. So here's an example of an email template that we have pre-built in the platform. So as you can see, they do get very realistic. So this is Pizza Hut dominantly based in the US. I did mention that we do have translation. So if you do have multiple language needs, it can be translated. And I'll show you what some of that looks like. But we do have the ability to spoof from any domain as well. So if you wanted this to look like it was coming from pizzahut.com, you absolutely could. We're pulling these images straight from Google Images. We're not saving them and hosting them anywhere. There's no copyright infringement as a result. So we're just emulating what the cyber criminals have access to do. But as you can imagine, we would not recommend using this for a baseline test because a lot of people love free pizza. So you would likely see a high fish-prone percentage on this one. So now I will pop over to training. And you're going to see across the board, we've got a very clean interface. It's very easy to use. There isn't a big learning curve to get our platform up and running in an environment. But creating campaigns is going to be a simple process. You're able to select start dates, times. You're able to specify the content that you want to deploy. You can even target specific groups, and that's where your user upload kind of comes into play in creating those additional groups. If you wanted to target the accounting team with wire transfer fraud or CEO fraud training, if you want to target the HR team with W-2 fraud training. Also, this is where that clickers group comes into play. So you actually have a training campaign set up for the clickers when they do fail phishing tests. And then we also have pre-built notifications in here, everything from welcome emails to reminder emails to end users to let them know they need to complete their training. You can remind managers, you can remind admins, you can let them know when someone has completed. There's a variety of different ways, depending on what works for your organization, to utilize these notifications, but we do have pre-built notification emails in the console. You can edit these if you'd like to. You can include your logos, update the text. You know, we just built this out to be very turnkey so you can get it up and running quickly. So here's an example of one of those email templates, just dictating they've been enrolled in training that they must complete by a certain date and time. Now, once they log in, this is going to be the end user interface. One super exciting thing that you guys are going to hear a lot more about is that we do have an app now that operates with iOS and Android. So people can actually take their training mobilely. Everything is going to be tracked. They're going to be able to get credit in the same fashion. So there's more to come on that, but it's fully launched now, which is very exciting. We've been using it internally for a couple of months, which is why you see this indicator at the top here. But each user is going to have their own fun little dashboard. It's going to give them visibility on training that they've completed. It's going to give them visibility of the use of that phish alert button. They can see how many times they've successfully reported simulated phishing emails. They can see how many times they've failed. Now, if they have any training that they've been assigned, they would just click into the training tab. And all they have to do is click the orange button to get started. Again, all of our training content is interactive, engaging. They do have to click through. They have to take quizzes. They can't just press play and walk away. What that also means is if you are using a lengthier training or if somebody gets sidetracked by a phone call or something that they need to handle, they do have the ability to resume where they left off as well. And as everything's tracked, you can look into an active campaign. You can pull reporting on inactive campaigns, very simple to do so. And then we also have awesome features like this security knowledge assessment. This is definitely one of my favorite features in the platform. So this is going to be a questionnaire. It's going to be multiple choice questions. All the questions are going to be centralized around these security topics down below. And based on your users' responses, you can actually identify where your biggest strengths and weaknesses are as an organization. And then you can focus on following up with training content on that during your subscription term to help close that gap. And all of these are hot links, so you can actually click right in and it's going to bring you to our mod store and highlight that specific content. And as we're in the mod store, I will show you guys that you are able to navigate in a variety of different ways. So not only can you navigate by topic, which includes the compliance element as well, all the regulatory compliance metrics or topics, and then risk management. So, sexual harassment, workplace safety, bloodborne pathogens, that's all the kind of stuff that you'd find on the risk management side. You can also drill down by duration, by any of our languages, as you can see. Publishers, we do support up to 12 different publishers that are located all across the globe. Targeted training, depending on the role, the region, the industry, as well as content type. So not only do we have training modules, but we also have video modules. We've got gamification. We have PDF images, newsletters, security documents. We again, just have the larger cybersecurity content library out there. So it allows you to be selective and approach your users with the stuff that is going to be most engaging for them. Whether it's live action, whether it's cartoon, whether it's serious, whether it's short term, durations, longer durations, games, whatever is going to be most well received in your environment. And then hopping over to phishing. So we've got more than 18,000 pre-built templates in our phishing library. They are all categorized, so you can be selective on the categories that you're phishing users with. We do also have categories by language down below as well. Most of these have a few hundred built in there, but you can easily create your own as well as edit any of the ones that are here. We do have sections that are not phishing security tests. Those are branded as not PST. Those are just informative. Things like the scam of the week. This could be something people could see on their personal lines or on their business lines. Here's an example of one that's branded by KnowBe4, but you can co-brand, you can rebrand. We offer all the flexibility there, but really just giving you the tools to create a more robust culture at no additional cost. And I'll show you guys what the editor looks like. Let's see. Let's open this email. So to edit any of our templates, you actually just click right in and it brings you right to the editor where you're able to make changes, to the sender's email, sender's name, add attachments, update the body of the email. I mean, maybe you want to make this a spear phishing email. You can actually input a placeholder of their first name. So provided you uploaded the user data to include their first name with their email address, that's where that is going to be pulled from. Once you're done making any changes, all you do is you click save and you'd actually be saving the templates under the new template under the My Templates section. So you're never going to be overriding the system templates. You're just going to be building more out in your own environment to test users with. And then I also want to show you our two-step failures in here. So where is our Netflix one? Our Netflix one, right over here. This one was a heavy hitter over the past 2 years. As you can imagine, with the pandemic, students learning remotely, parents working remotely, cyber criminals are privy to the things that are happening out there in the world, right? So we were seeing this email being reported quite a bit. A Netflix branded email saying your account's on hold. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to click in and they're going to be redirected to this lovely landing page where they would then plug in their credentials and click sign in. So you can see just how easy it could be to fall for something like this. I will say we don't log the keystrokes. We don't know specifically what they typed in, but in this scenario, not only did they click on an email, but they also entered sensitive information. We also have a variety of other landing pages pre-built. We're setting it over 200 at this point. Everything from, Facebook to Microsoft to LinkedIn. We've got hack attacks and scare tactics that are built in here as well. As point of failure videos, error pages like 404 broken link pages. But this is definitely the two things that I always love to highlight are that security knowledge assessment and then our social engineering indicators landing page. Again, one of my favorite features in the platform. So essentially, once the end user clicks on a simulated email, they would be redirected here. First, it's going to identify that they failed, but secondly, it's going to auto-populate the email template that they clicked on, and it's going to identify the red flags in that template. So they can actually hover their mouse over the red flag to understand why it's a red flag and why they shouldn't have clicked. In today's world, so many people are moving, 100 miles per hour, and they're not going to go immediately look at a mistake if they get a failure page, right? But if you do populate that right in front of them and give them the easy opportunity to, hover their mouse and learn, they're much more inclined to learn from that mistake because you're capitalizing on a teachable moment. And then creating campaigns. Again, a breeze. Essentially, you're able to title the campaign. If you really wanted to start off with our recommendation of targeting all users on a monthly basis, it would be as simple as selecting all users, the monthly frequency, defining your business days and hours. You would then select the email categories that you would like to phish users with. I'll just select a couple. Maybe you'd like to use that social engineering indicators landing page that I just showed you. Now, our platform defaults to populate at full random. So that means that everyone is going to get a different email at a different time during that window of delivery. It removes what we call that prairie dog effect, where especially if people are working in an office together, if one person gets an email, they pop their head up and say, hey, did anybody else get this? Don't open it, right? So then they don't have the opportunity to make that smart security decision on their own. So our platform is built to give everyone the ability to learn on their own and make those decisions. So in this scenario, if you click create campaign, you'd actually be setting up a campaign that is going to recur every single month. It's going to start on the 20th of every month. It's going to run and send these emails over the course of 3 business days. And then it's going to track for 3 days after in the case that anyone was on vacation. And then it would kick out an automatic report for you. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the PDF report that you'd be receiving, giving you an overview of the statistics. It does have hot links in there, so as the admin, you can drill down into those specifics. Once you click in, it's going to ask you to log into the platform, where you're going to be able to see things like the failures by hour, the failures by day, as well as the failures by location. This is great to see if people are traveling for work, if they're using mobile devices, or if you have multiple locations, you can see where that's tracked. Or if you have a click that's in a completely random country, that's a sure tell sign that there's something wrong in your network, right? Let's go into users and I'll show you guys how to drill down. So here you can see the specifics of how many emails were delivered, how many of those were opened, how many were clicked, and other behaviors as well. What we really focus on highlighting here is it's not just how many were delivered, it's the conversion rate of how many opened to clicked. So in this scenario, you can see there's almost a 90% chance that anybody that opens the email is going to click, which is really scary, right? But you can export this information out of the platform. And if you drill down into the specific behaviors, you can kind of see the who, what, when, where, and why. Now, one of the last things that I want to touch on here is our automated security awareness program. So we've got a fantastic platform, but it is very robust, and it can be a little intimidating for organizations that are new to starting a program, right? Because you see all this and you're like, this is great, but where do I start? So that's why this was created. So this is a questionnaire. It's about 7 to 10 questions based on things like the size of your organization, the industry you're in, the goals that you're looking to satisfy by getting a program in place. We're going to give you a task-driven list based on recommendations that we would make for you during the term of your subscription. So you can have a step-by-step guide on what to do, your timeline to do it, what's recommended by us. But I will say that when you do come on board with KnowBe4, you are assigned a dedicated customer success manager. So you are actually going to have someone that is supporting you with onboarding, with kickoff, with making recommendations, supporting you with any tech questions or any issues that you run into, be it whitelisting or loading users. So you're actually going to have somebody that's holding your hand during your subscription term with KnowBe4. And there's a lot of information out there. If you look up Gartner peer reviews, G2 reviews, where our customer service is second to none. We're over 1,000 reviews on Gartner peer reviews or Gartner peer insights now. From organizations of all different sizes at 4.8 stars with over 1,000 reviews. So, customer satisfaction is huge. So we want to make sure that you get onboarded, that you're able to use the platform, that you're seeing success from it. And we're going to be there along the entire length of the way to ensure that that goes right for you. So that's kind of a high level overview of what we have going on here. I can also touch on really quickly PhishER. I know that we touched on it at the beginning. So this platform does integrate with our security awareness training platform. So when you're coaching those users to use that button to report suspicious emails, this is where those emails would be sent into. So when you set up that button, you set it up to report them into PhishER. In PhishER, you're able to dive into the back-end details of the email. You're able to categorize the email based on if it's clean spam or a threat. There is machine learning built into this platform, so you can set condition thresholds to allow the platform to make recommendations for you. But once you do confirm the category, then you can create rules, tags, actions, allowing anything that is going to be duplicating this, similar, whether it's IP addresses, users, users that are reporting or user it's being sent from. You can automatically resolve these moving forward. So it's going to eliminate the noise in your inbox as you're using those so that you're decreasing the amount of emails that you need to review week over week, month over month. Also, this is where if you do identify that threat, or that email as a threat, you can run the query of all the email addresses within the given network. And if it is out there in the wild, you can rip it away from those users' fingertips and quarantine it in our platform. And we've actually even taken that a step further. So not only can you rip it away from the user's fingertips, but you can actually replace it with a simulation. So you rip it away, you defang it, and you replace it with the exact same thing to see how the end user would have responded. So I will pass the buck back over to Mr. Jeff here, and we can open things up for questions.
Thanks, Katrina. So Jeff, yeah, I pass control back to you. As Katrina said, we're now open for questions. We did have a couple come through, Katrina. First one was, how much time does it take to onboard the platform?
Great question. So as mentioned, we do have a lot of stuff that's pre-built in the platform. The manual labor is going to come in the beginning. You just need to properly waitlist us in your environment. Upload the users, and the installation of the Phish Alert button are really the key factors to then being able to set up campaigns and hit the ground running. Once those 3 pieces of the pie are or puzzle are done, then you can literally spend an hour with your customer success manager on an onboarding call and set up the fundamentals of a training or a baseline test, a follow-up training campaign, and that monthly phishing recurring after that fundamental training is completed. So in a matter of a few hours, you can get this up and running very easily.
Fantastic. Thanks, Katrina. And then another one as well. So how often is the training content updated?
So as we have 12 publishers that are global, we are constantly adding new content, updating old content. You can see updates as often as weekly to content that's in the platform.
Fantastic. Thanks, Katrina. Jeff, back over to you. I think there's one more slide.
Yes, Katrina, thanks so much for all the information that you've shared with us. It's definitely one of those scenarios where, as everyone says, the people that make up a company are one of the biggest assets for that company. The other side of that is that it's also the biggest risk that goes along with it, which is why we feel strongly that KnowBe4 is a great partner to be teamed up with. The information that they're providing from training, the way that it's even shown to you, where, as you pointed out, there's multiple ways that people end up learning. So some of it is that thing of like they can watch videos, consume it, and have a full understanding of it. They get the practice of it by having these phishing attempts sent to them. They get the immediate response of like, hey, you actually identified one correctly, or if you identified it incorrectly, here's information that you can look for in the future. So there's a lot of things that I find extremely useful around that. And this is coming from someone who's I went to college for kinesiology to be a coach, and so I have like coaching theory as part of my background, and everything that KnowBe4 does falls into those type of concepts. One of the things that we wanted to point out is there are several tools there that are the free tools to jump into. So we have the social media phishing test that you can apply to everybody. You can use the phishing security test and the email exposure test, all things that you can use as kind of a sample of what can KnowBe4 do for you, what is the risk that you have already. I believe, Helen, we're going to be sending out the information with the links for all of this, along with the get your free kit supplied to everyone that's attending.
We will indeed, Jeff. Yeah, 24, 48 hours, I'll send you a link to the webinar recording, and then I'll include all these free resources. So yeah, you'll be able to click the link. It is a safe link, and download those resources free of charge.
Yes, we're not going to do the ultimate phishing test on you and have you fail on that one. So if there's not anything else, again, Katrina, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to demonstrate the product to everyone who is able to attend. And if there's any questions, last chance on getting those in.
Indeed, yeah. Can't see anything coming through at the moment. Obviously, if you do have questions, you can also drop us an email to info@loop1.com, and we'll be happy to take those questions offline. Jeff, thank you very much for hosting today. Katrina, thank you very much for taking us through the KnowBe4 platform. If you can, as you exit the webinar today, just complete the feedback. That would be greatly appreciated. And as I said, I will share the recording link and all these resources with you in a follow-up email. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks for having me.